Come this way. Come this way a little bit more. Okay. Now let the cooler like kind of sit on the water there. It should kind of.
Yeah, just floating. Okay.
Floating, all right?
Now we'll just let it go.
Okay, yeah, kind of tilt it towards us a little bit, so we can watch the fish.
Really low?
Come out.
Really
All right, just real slow. That's like it. Just hold it there for a minute. Just hold it there. Let them.
Wish I could zoom in. How do you zoom in?
On the top.
Zoom in button.
You just kind of let them come out on their own. Yeah, just like that. Perfect.
Is it?
Did she get it?
No.
Yeah, zoom in.
Just bit me.
They don't want to go. Yeah, they don't want to go.
Because they don't know any better.
Just a change in water won't affect it or anything?
I think at that stage, no.
Yeah, just dump that, rinse that out now. Careful, you. I don't want any fish juice in my cooler. All right, now don't walk anywhere, guys. Look around and see if the fish are swimming by your feet. Or where they, anybody see where they might have swam to?
Yeah, they're right here. They're
yeah, they're right there. They don't want to leave you.
Bye-bye, babies.
I don't even think they could, they're trying to swim that way.
We had a lot of buildup of trash, and a lot of the garbage pails was like overflowing. And the one thing that concerned about me was that a lot of the animals, mammals and stuff, were actually like feeding off of the garbage, and it was kind of concerning because they were eating things that like plastic bags, paper plates, so it's really concerning me. We also did water testing with the help of chemical test kits, and we test for pollutants and concentration of ions. And the results that we got off of that was not very high, but we found a lot of things that were interesting in the water. Besides the trash, like plastic bottles and bags, we also found diapers, binkies from children playing popsicle sticks, even around the water edge and in the water and also in the playground. So it was a lot interesting.
In terms of where we went sailing first, got there, got unloaded. We did well, first we did the water testing, tested for clarity, purity, and then we also tested for a few other things too. Meaning great how the park was, there was a lot of trash. I was a little bit appalled by what I saw in the water. I was almost, after that I was almost scared to even go back into the water. I pulled out a broken beer bottle, a few shoes, flippers, you know, I think a pair of clothes I found. It was surprising how neat everything really was. It was a little horrendous what we saw in the water.
Senior year, I attended a vocational school called MAIDS, and while at MAIDS, we talked about Barnegat Bay and like the effects of it and what how it's becoming polluted over the past couple of years, and it's about time we did something about it. And for an assignment, my teacher had given us a newspaper, a 14-page article about it, and basically everything that's on that screen was in that newspaper. That a lot of like the runoff, like fertilizers that come from golf courses, our gardens, that all goes into Barnegat Bay, and it affects the marine life there. Bacteria loves to grow out, like algae love to grow off from the fertilizer, and it's not giving enough room for the other species that live there. So it's become a serious problem, and it's about time we did something about it.
Okay, next. Maybe John, I'll start with you on this one. What are some of the trends in water supply that we're seeing here in New Jersey?
Well, of course, New Jersey had rapid growth in the earlier part of the century and the mid part of the century that required a lot of tapping of water sources such as the groundwater that was alluded to. And of course, a lot of communities get their drinking water from streams as well. The last few years has seen a tailing off in the expansion of the statewide growth. On the other hand, the state always wishes to grow its economy and grow its communities to make sure that there's adequate water supply for future interests as well. In some areas, such as the Lakewood community, there are plans on the books for some significant growth. And it should be noted that the water resources in this particular area are of a limited nature, as it now is, and that this would be a real challenge for the future for the Lakewood community in particular, if we could focus in on that for a second.
What she just answered.
Okay, great.
My other question is now with that being an issue, how we're getting the younger generation involved in this topic. I also want to know just even the fact that I think, high schools would be more than happy to go out there and spend their time cleaning up the lakes and participating. But then the big issue with that being is, how would we get there? Transportation on its own is not going to be free. And that's what that was right there was a big topic for us last year.
Right.
Because I know more students wanted to come and participate, but that right there was just busting.
Yep, we hear that all the time, actually.
So now if you guys try to plan more things or say, yeah, let's go, get the kids involved, how could we be able to that still being an issue?
Thoughts on that from the panel?
Well, I mean, as a person who works for a nonprofit, that we're always trying to find funding and funds, there are groups out there that if you write up a proposal as a student body and say, look, we want to go do this, there are funds in New Jersey, funders that will do that who will work only with high school students. I think Ben and Jerry's is a big funder of high school projects, and they might, finance a bus tour or something like that. But it does take a lot of work, it does take a lot of exploration and research on the students' part to try and find those things, that do that. I think the State Library in New Jersey has a whole webpage on funders and foundations that will fund projects in New Jersey. Student projects, those are good ones. They might.
I have a question. I also wanted to say, I think that it is a good idea to get involved with the youth and, I don't know if you will find it possible, but I think you should, take into consideration about that whole idea about going out to schools, talking and representing as a panelist from whatever organization, industry, whatever. I really think that's a good idea. Also, I don't know if any of you will be able to answer, but I'm just going to ask, because I hear things about, how there's drinking water that's kind of better. I don't want to say better, but in certain different towns, I hear that, I don't know if it's true or not, but I hear that they say there's better drinking water in one city than there is in another. And I want to know, what is the process that you go through when you, because I remember you told someone said, I think it was Joe, I believe it was you talked about the ventilation, the requirements of the management of the water, there's a process that you go through in order to see that the water is ready or clear and to drink for that. And I want to know, what if a town or city is not going through that process or coming up as available for the water to drink? What is it?
From a water treatment plant perspective, the level of treatment that you need to provide to drinking water is really dependent on a lot of wells, a lot of groundwater. And in a lot of cases, that groundwater is actually clean enough to go right from the ground, right from the wellhead, and with minimal treatment be more than suitable to drink and meet all of the DEP's permit requirements. In Brick, we do use well water, but we also use surface water from the Metedeconk River. Surface water is probably the most difficult water to treat because it's very inconsistent in its quality. If it's dry out, hasn't rained for a while, the water might be very clean, and it would require less chemical addition to remove particulates that might be in it. And if it's raining, the water can be very, very dirty as runoff brings dirt and other sediment into the river. But for the Metedeconk River, and actually for all of our sources, but primarily driven by the Metedeconk, we do add chemicals which are called coagulants to our water, which bind little particulates that may be in the water, sediment, things like that. And then we have these big tanks called basins, settling basins, which once these particles are coagulated, they're actually heavier and they'll sink to the bottom. So we actually just remove that material from the water, and from these basins it then goes through a sand filter, where you're essentially filtering out everything that is missed or doesn't fully coagulate and settle out. After the sand filtration, we do add a disinfection chemical, and that's what keeps people from getting sick. In our case, we add chlorine, and we make sure that we add enough chlorine at our treatment plant that even in the furthest reaches of our distribution system, which depending on the flow at the plant, which is seasonal, it could take a day or two for water to get from our plant to the tap at your house if you're living pretty far away. We make sure that we have enough chlorine residual in there to keep from killing bacteria, pathogens, so that way the water that people drink is very safe. And in addition to all this treatment, we employ a very extensive water quality monitoring process for the water that goes through the treatment process to make sure it's meeting standards and make sure it's meeting our standards that we'll know it's clean, but also monitoring the water after it leaves our treatment plant to make sure it remains clean.
I'm Tony Shan. I'm a biology teacher at Lakewood High School over the last 6 years. Prior to that, I was a microbiologist for 20 years with the United States Food and Drug Administration. This was an effort between PICA, Lakewood High School students,
Georgian Court.
Georgian Court University. So we got called upon to help out with this little project, and it wound up being a big project. I think it was probably about 60 or 70 kids who went out to Barnegat Bay, went out to Lake Carasalga, Canis Island, and we also went to Tom's River. One of the reasons we did that was because we also raised trout in the school to restock the river. And so we combined that with testing. We figured we'd test the water while we were there. So this documents what we did. And switching. Okay. And our goal was to get the students involved and understanding what's going on in their own community. And to have some sort of stewardship.
The project that we did with Lakewood High School, and we asked students to come to Canis Island and Tom's River and Lake Carasalga to do water testing, to also just get a feel for the environment around us, around our community, and to educate them about the Barnegat Bay watershed. My personal reason for getting into it and being interested in it is because I really think it's important that students learn about their environment and get into the environment instead of just, hearing about it. They need to actually immerse themselves in it. That's how you learn. You have to get it and know what's around you. I did not make the trip to Canis Island or Tom's River, but I did go to Lake Carasalga, which was a really good experience for me. We did 2 trips there. The first trip, the students did water testing, which they tested the pH levels of the water. They did a bunch of other soil quality. The main thing that the students got out of that trip was seeing how polluted the lake was. And they really got a feel for the amount of garbage and the geese and the ducks that live in that garbage. So I really think that was important for them to see that. And also, I heard a lot of students saying that they've never been to Lake Carasalga, which is sad to me because it's right down the street. It's in walking distance for most of them. The second trip we went on the south side of the lake. The first trip was on the north side of the lake, on the north beach. The second trip was on the south side. And they did the water testing over there where there's, on South Lake Drive, there's a little covered bridge. It's not a covered bridge, but a little bridge in the woods. We did the water testing over there. And then I suggested let's walk around the lake, which was good because then they got to see more animals. We saw snapping turtles. They actually saw sewage pipes coming from the road. So they said, wow, there's water coming from the road, that pollution from the cars, going right down into the lake. So that was really important for them to see, how that environment, our cars are affecting the water and where these animals live. phone. Alright, so the mission is to introduce Lakewood High School students to the Barnegat Bay watershed through project-based learning, to get them involved, to learn about the issues that are coming about. The watershed is an area of land where all surface and groundwater drain off into the same place. For this area, it is Barnegat Bay, which is the Barnegat Bay watershed, which is Ocean County and the parts, I think it's the southern part of Monmouth County. All right. The students went to Caddis Island, they went to Lake Carasello, and they also went to the Toms River. And the most important part is for them to realize too that it's their drinking water. Right, so it's important. The map, you see Lake Carasello there in the middle, Lake Minetta, and then all the rivers coming off.
Hi everybody, my name is Emily Ortiz. I attend Lakewood High School. I'm a sophomore. As you can see, not my other friends didn't make it, but it's okay. Anyway, they really have a very good point over here. I was raised in Lakewood, and it's a really nice town. The pollution is really big, and I feel that it's affecting us. We may not see it right now, but later on it's going to affect us, because that's our water that we need water to survive. If it's polluted, I mean, might as well write a testament for all of us, because it's going to affect us. And we have to realize that now. We can make the change now. Not when, when we're going to die or when we have less time. We can make the change now by recycling, by putting everything in place. I know not everybody wants to listen, but I feel like those people should get in trouble, because they're affecting the people who want to preserve Lakewood. As you can see here, I didn't go to Lake Carasello, but I did go to Caddis It was a beautiful place. I never went there, but it was a beautiful place. It was a nice hot day. We went to test the waters, and there each color represents pollution, dirty in that. We had to put meters, we had to go deep into the water, and we would find trout, fish, jellyfish, different types of fishes. And we did see other crabs. We did see garbage crab. We tried to pick it up, try to preserve it, keep it nice and clean. It was a really fun, hands-on activity that I've never experienced in my life, but I was really proud of myself that I was here. As you can see, I'm kind of nervous. But as I was trying to put it out, but I think that it's very important. They do have a point. We should preserve Lakewood. A lot of people are coming here from cities, other places. I think that we should let them know that Lakewood is a very beautiful place. 10 years ago it wasn't like this. 20 years ago it wasn't like this. I'm not 1 year or whatever, but I know because I have family who lived here for so many years and friends that told me 20 years ago it was more trees and houses. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there was less cars like in the streets. And we should let those people know that they have to be really cautious with what they're letting out, because it's going to affect us eventually. So I'm very happy that you guys are cooperating, and hopefully more students in my school can help, because it's going to affect them, even though they don't care. It's going to affect them and their generation and their descendants.
Alright, so this is the visit to Toms River. We released trout, we did some seine netting, and water testing. Were you on the trip to Toms River?
Yes, we did the same. We didn't pull much out of Toms River, but it was funny. We did some water testing at this site, then we were walking just to discuss some foliage with them. They smell bad odor near that upper left-hand picture there. So I said, well, we're here, might as well test it. You see any difference in the results, but it almost smelled sewage. I don't know if there's a cabbage. I know over around there's a cabbage and stuff like that.
I think there's a landfill nearby.
Oh,
That's
is
what Will said on the tape.
Okay.
Is that there's a
that's right,
landfill.
he did say that. So, you know, I mean, we did pique their interest that day, for sure.
And then they went to Canis Island on Barnegat Bay, and they did some more seeing and killing traps, and they did wildlife test or sampling. And I only went to the Lake Arceldo trip, so. Yeah.
The same thing Emily discussed. We had some baby shrimp, a lot of young sea life there. Kibbles, got the name of that other fish, got the name of it, crabs, jellyfish. But my group actually did pull out some shoes and cans and broken glass, and they started to get a little nervous when we saw the broken bottles in the water. They did have the same, pants on, the waders on. These are some of the species we put. Isn't that a great shot?
And to Lake Arceldo, this is just some background information about Lake Arceldo. They did the sea netting, the hand netting, and water testing again, and they also, I think this is the best activity that I saw there, was that the students actually saw the amount of garbage, and they were so involved in picking up the garbage and the trash. And I remember there was a goose that lived in a pile of garbage, and it just had pizza boxes and bottles, and they were so upset at this. They were saying, does it eat this trash and the smell? And there was just bottles floating. So that's what I think really impacted the students that day, that they really got to see the amount of stuff there.
We also did a survey with the students and asked them if they knew what Lake Harrison, where it was, very few actually know what the recreation facilities there. 1%, if that, had any idea about it. So, just again gave them some knowledge of their community.
Yeah.
Ownership. Yes, ownership.
I wanted to say something else that captured. We also have to keep in mind, I don't know if you guys know, they have like a golf place. That's
The country club.
Oh, the golf country club. The golf course.
Yeah.
Pollution.
Yeah, that's something that I also said on the presentation in Lakewood High School, that a lot of runoffs from, when it's rains or anything like that, pesticides and what they put, the chemicals that they put, so that they can maintain the grass nice and clean and green living. And that's something that's really affecting that lake, because all of that is going into the lake, and it's also affecting the animals in there too, like fishes, and then people catch the fish. Exactly, and they eat them. So that's also a huge deal, and I mean, we should kind of do something about that.
And the lake used to be a huge swimming area.
Yeah, a lot of
now
people
it's mulch. I remember when my uncles were lifeguards in the swimming area, and now it's just mulch. Yeah, and now it's mulched over.
Such a shame.
Yeah.
So that I remember when I was like 4 or 5, and that wasn't that long ago, really, and people swam in it, but now it's a big mulch pile, which is even worse because who knows what's in that mulch, and then that's getting into the lake, the animals are eating that.
Yeah, I never really swim there, but I would like to experience that. I like the lake, have that benefit,
Instead of having to drive all the way out to the beach, you can go right in your own backyard.
These are some of the organisms that we actually found. The snake was dead, but it was still there.
The snapping turtle. I know the students loved the snapping turtle because it was like this big. It was huge. that we talked about with the students is the fecal coliform, sewages, you know, sanitary systems, the animal waste, what maybe we could do about the animal waste. I don't even know what alternative methods for that would be, like, to control the geese population.
They spoke about that last night.
Yeah, what good alternative methods, because it's kind of tricky. I mean, if you, I know they hear of, like, they hear, with the fecal coliforms, they hear of, like, gassing them, but that's just, I mean, animal rights.
First thing you have to do, as was said earlier, is try and run some kind of testing so you can understand exactly where the fecal coliform is coming from.
And then just some other information on pesticides, herbicides, what we talked about with the golf being so close, with the golf course being so close by. Alright, and that is a whole list of golf course chemicals. The other girl that is working along with us, she actually found out those chemicals that are found in the fertilizers. And I talked to, I'm checking my book right here, I talked to a man from the township about this, and he told me that there's supposed to be a law going into place that says if you live within a certain distance of the lake that you cannot use fertilizers anymore. But my thought on that is, how do you put that law into act? Like, yeah, it's one of those laws that you say, but then is somebody actually going to go out there and test it? What are you going to say? I don't know.
I work in policy and regulatory issues for a coastal conservation organization, and we were for years working on getting the strongest fertilizer law in the nation passed, and it regulates the content that's in the fertilizers, the type of nitrogen and phosphorus that's put in the actual bag, and it also does place restrictions on who can fertilize when. There's different cutoff dates for professionals and homeowners. And policing is kind of an issue. So could you tattle on your neighbor? You call code enforcement? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there is supposed to be a 25-foot buffer to a waterway. You can go reduce that buffer to 10 feet if you use a specific type of application along the water, but it is going to be kind of an honor system or a local code enforcement issue where, you know, but the fines are substantial. So, you know, if you see somebody, a neighbor or anybody by that lake applying fertilizer too close to the water, you can warn them and tell them that they are breaking the law and could receive a fine.
Why can't the golf courses use local species and just mow that? Why does it have to be grass? I don't know anything about golf. But like, you know, what if weeds did grow there and they mowed them down? They can't play golf there?
Yeah, the turf for golf courses has to be pretty specific to keep
yeah.
them, you know, the greens the way that they are. And they're actually, unfortunately, exempt from the fertilizer law.
Because they
do
politicians play golf.
And they probably bring in a lot of money for the
They actually do have a lot of professionals who do very targeted applications, and agriculture is exempt and golf courses are exempt. So.
That's when he told me about the fertilizer law. That's exactly what I was thinking. Well, how do you? I mean, does somebody go around and test the soil? You can't. It's hard to police. You can't go around and say, "Oh, your grass is too green. You must have used fertilizer."
Yeah. You have them test it and then prove it to you.
Yeah. So it is. I think it's kind of tricky.
Yeah.
It is. As I said, I think it's a lot, and I actually have handouts for cleanwaternewjersey.org that has all the information on the fertilizer law.
Okay.
If you want to go to their website, and this has tips on it for people fertilizing their lawns, you're welcome to take the book and give them out. I'm Helen Henderson. I'm a policy advocate with the American Littoral Society. And just to give you a little background on our organization, we've been around 50 years. We're celebrating our 50th year. Littoral is not to be taken as a book club. Littoral is actually definition of the region near the shore. So we work in the littoral zone, the connection between the land and what I tried to do today, very quickly, because I'm always running here or there, I attended the presentation yesterday, and I wanted to follow up. Slideshow. So yesterday, the students presented on the project, and then there was a seminar on, and a panel on actually water quantity besides water quality. So I just wanted to try to help the students understand very briefly what else you could actually do. Things that we don't want to see happening in Barnegat Bay that are currently happening because of water quality issues are we're seeing the ecosystem alter from non-point source pollution, creating a really lovely home for invasive species. Like stinging sea nettles. It's affecting our human enjoyment. It's throwing off the entire food web of the bay. So as you said, when you're thinking about generations to come and what you want to preserve, we have to start acting now. We can't rely on the adults who are set in their ways. So we don't want to see any further degradation, like the overpopulation of the sea nettles, things like macroalgae, which is directly fed by the nutrients that are in fertilizers, especially in an estuarine system like Barnegat Bay, the nitrogen that's contained in those fertilizers, which is why there's a new law in effect to reduce the type of nitrogen, the amount that can be applied, and shortens the time frame when it can be applied. That sea lettuce is completely overgrown. It's like when you put too much fertilizer on your grass. And so the sea lettuce kind of grows and crowds out, dies off, goes down to the bottom, and kills healthy eelgrass where the crabs, the juvenile fish, where they all nest and live. Sometimes, yeah, we had a really extreme event this year where it was like noxious. The odor was just unbelievable. So I'm not really sure exactly why that was so terrible. If it was excessive amounts of heat, like a real dead zone, hotspot. So, but that's the kind of things that we don't want to see. So, in thinking about how you guys could protect Barnegat Bay in Lakewood, some of the things that you could do. I think they touched earlier on a lot of the issues about new sewer extensions and the type of development that's a result from the installation of sewers. You're going to get much more dense, compact development, which then, as Janet Schur described earlier, all that pavement when it rains, you're going to get stormwater runoff that pollutes the waterways. There are special laws that are in place that we hope the Department of Environmental Protection will enforce so that new sewers are limited, especially in sensitive areas, and hopefully limit some of the growth here. Land preservation, number one easiest way to help keep the environment healthy. You do have many opportunities in Lakewood to do that. You could encourage or incentivize something known as green practices, which is low impact development. And I'm going to go through just some quick slides on what each one of these are, so that you could advocate for that. Say, get your student council to go to the Lakewood committee and say, we'd like to see an ordinance passed that encourages LID practices. And then the really fun thing that I think the school would really enjoy is to adopt low maintenance landscaping principles, require native plants, something we call basescape. I'll show you some pictures. This slide here, all the red that fills in starting back in the 1970s, 72 to be exact, and progresses through the years, all the red is development. So that's forest that was lost, pavement that was put down, roads that were built, cars that came in. Just, you can just see that the population is just in development. It's out of control. The area that stays green to the west of the Garden State Parkway is our Pinelands Protection Act, which, as you can see, has worked quite well. It's kept a lot of the watershed. As you were saying before, this is a map of the watershed, and it does follow almost geographically Ocean County. What's that?
I mean, it looks like it's very congested along.
Right.
And right by the water.
And actually the parkway is a dividing, would be a regulatory line known as the CAFRA area, which is the coastal regulated area by DEP. They're not doing a very good job of protecting land in our coastal areas because people want to live by the coast. So we live by it and then we love it to death, we live it to death, and that's where we are now. We heard a lot about the economics of everything yesterday. A healthy environment is an economic driver, so we really have to go full circle and realize that we've made a lot of mistakes in the past and we need to try to correct the ones and stop making new ones as well. But this is a powerful slide just to see how much things have changed. So this is a map, again, with some of the policy work that I deal with. It would be great to have high school students come out to public meetings on things like sewer service areas. Everything you said to me before, I got choked up. Because you're absolutely right. We need the young people to care. People, men in suits, need to see the young people out there saying, we care. Maybe you don't. You're looking at your economic bottom line or what your politicians want. It's not what the people want. It's not what the next generation wants left to them. We don't want a mess. We don't want to see sewers everywhere. We don't want pollution in our water. And while you can see the garbage that you go and pick up, you can't see a lot of the pollution that's from non-point. Not until it shows up as jellyfish or algae blooms or things like that. So just remember that these are the kind of things that you can get involved with. This is a map of Crystal Lake, one of the preservation areas that we talked about. Lakewood, it's overall 213 acres. That's a decent chunk of property that can be preserved. I also have on this disc a bunch of pictures. We went out walking it one day and saw, you know, all kinds of flora and fauna. It was just, it's a beautiful site. Lakewood could preserve that very easily, and we really hope that they will. And you'll notice just to the left, there is this cleared portion there. That is Carol Murray's farm from the left. So what we have tried to do is actually, we have objected to a housing proposal in the area between, just to the left of Crystal Lake, in between Carol's farm and Crystal Lake Preserve. We would like to see that entire area, which would be almost 250 acres, preserved for safe water quality. And this is a shot of one of Carol's farm fields. I think corn, when it's not grown, it's come down obviously, but so there's some land preservation. I talked about the low impact development. If anybody wanted to look, you can go on EPA's website. How cool would it be to see a green roof?
Okay. Georgia has their whole athletics department building. It's all like grass. The roof is green. Yeah. And it's cool because they use the water, the runoff water in that little lake, and they use that to irrigate. Yes, for all of the athletic fields and everything, which is really, it's really neat.
You can. That's another issue that you can bring to your township officials and say we should have ordinances, local laws that require low impact development techniques. You can filter the rainwater on the rooftops, collect it, use it for watering, so it's water conservation, it's water quality improvements, green landscaping, inserting strips of in parking lot areas so that they go down, the rainwater waters and plants, filters the water, so there's a whole section on the Environmental Protection Agency's website, anything and everything you wanted to know about low impact development. So that's another thing that I think you guys might enjoy. One of my favorite things that I do for work, it gets me out of Trenton, gets me out of the policy stuff, is the hands-on working with local homeowners, churches, nurseries, hopefully schools, and perhaps Lakewood School will be one of our first schools that in Ocean County that we put in a native plant, a base native Barnegat Bay garden. And it's all native plants. The top left is a demonstration garden on Long Beach Island that you can actually download the plants. There's 6 different garden plots that you can replicate on your own property. So we built that at Sisters in Charity in Harvey Cedars. And to the right of that is Morning Star Presbyterian Church in Bayville. A private homeowner implemented a garden in Portland River down on the Bottom Range. And we just did a project. We just finished it on Monday. The sign isn't even installed yet for public viewing, but another Bayscape for Barnegat Bay project with Laurel Commons Condominium Association. It's in Toms River. It's a 22-acre site, has 220 units. They have individual garden beds in between each of their units, and they are transforming them, removing any ornamental shrubs and replacing it all with beautiful native plant gardens. They will require no fertilizers, no pesticides. They will create beneficial wildlife habitats, birds, bees, butterflies, and they reduce water use. They don't need to be watered. Yes, they chose the hardscape and design themselves. I mean, we have a garden designer. She's a horticulturist and master gardener that we work with.
I'm sorry, we have a, they don't have it this year for whatever reason, but I do it. We have, we're the only school in the county that that's the way.
We are,
so that would be perfect.
We're always expanding the program, and we're hoping to, we just got it approved through the Governor's Barnegat Bay Initiative. Our program is listed through superintendents that distributed it to all the schools in Ocean County. So we're hoping to get some Bayscape gardens planted at schools. And there are just some beautiful plants, hardscape can be. Yeah, and we actually do, Judy Figlio that I work with will go out and we did one today in Whiting for Garden Club. And she goes through all the different plants, and you can't believe how beautiful they are, and people love pretty gardens, so that's great. That's it. So those were just some added things that I thought might interest you, things you could do with the school, come out, advocate, get involved civically, doing gardens, reducing runoff, and there's brochures there. Take as many as you like for school. Look up the fertilizer information. It's pretty interesting law, and we hope it's implemented and upheld the way it should be.
Like do contests if I have an elementary school and tell them how to make a garden in school. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we have a little, we have different activities for all different levels. We have the standard Enviroscapes for non-point source pollution. We have a coloring activity that will teach them about non-point source pollution. Absolutely.
Just some of the students that didn't want to get into the water or do the water testing, they went around and they surveyed several people that were walking around the lake. This was basically kind of an informative survey asking them if they knew the history of the lake, if they knew, the recreation of the lake. And basically just asking them the importance of it and what they know about it. And then we have them filling in their name, and we wanted to get a general idea of how much the citizens knew and how much the students knew, which we found out that was very minimal, not a lot. And then I also made a brochure for the students to hand out to anybody It took the surveyor, the passive guys, that just gave you basic information about the fertilizers and the sewer systems, and the history of the lake, and then the water testing. Yeah, that's the other cool thing. And it's just pictures of the students involved in the project. So there was about like 60 or 70 students. Yeah, there's some pretty busfuls of students.
3, 4, 5 different, 6 different classes. Mr. Schmidt, he's a science school.
And this is who funded the project? The Trust for Public Land